What's up? I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
hard to master,
such as
Algae Inc. by Game Brewer.
Algae Inc. is a game that is coming to Gamefound on March 11th, so be on the lookout for that. We do have a link to the campaign page down below in the description of this video, so go ahead and check that out after you watch this video. And what we have out here on the table is a prototype that was sent to us to preview, and we want to thank the people over at Game Brewer for sending that to us. And with this game, you are trying to convert algae into different products to be used in life, such as food or makeup, biofuel. And the person who's going to be able to efficiently run their algae company or Algae Inc. department, there you go. Whoever does it most efficiently is going to be the person who likely wins this game, because you're going to be traveling throughout Europe trying to sell your products and working this action selection tree over here to choose what actions you're going to be doing throughout the course of the game. So there's a lot of good mechanics with this one. You've got action selection, unlocking things on your board, tableau building, networking in a sense, kind of with the asymmetric different boards that are at play with this game. And then, like we said, trying to get to different parts of the board here. So what we're going to do, we're going to just briefly talk about the round overview with this game, and then we'll share our thoughts on this one. So Jeremy, what do we got going on with this one?
Yeah, so here, for instance, I have the biofuel department of Algae Inc. And your turn is going to be structured here based on the bottom. Now, this player board does have one extra step that we're going to go over, but every other's actions are pretty much the same as far as order of operations. So right here, you would gain income. You're going to gain 2 coins at the beginning of the week. You're also going to gain coins based on how many discs you've exported to, because that's going to unlock as long as you don't use them for an extra action, which we can talk about in a minute. You also gain points that you've unlocked by placing milestone cubes. Then you will gain income based off of your 3 different teams. You have the operators, which will be collecting algae for you, and they'll go here in your spot. Now, you'll begin the game with only one type of algae, whether it's red, blue, spirilla, or chlorella algae. And then as you go, you can unlock different types, upping the capacity for the algae to be harvested, as well as placing those tiles onto your science board. Your engineer is going to allow you to move these cubes across yellow and black conveyor belts. And at the beginning of the game, you're only going to be able to move 1 per worker that you have. But as you upgrade placing these science tiles onto your board, you could gain an extra benefit like this, where you're going to gain 2 additional conveyor belt movements. Now, these do not activate the blue and green, just the yellow and black, which is different than operating a machine. The third thing in the income phase is going to be gaining science points, which is tracked on a tracker currently. And again, everything here is prototype and subject that it could change. But as you go, again, these will allow you to gain 2 additional of those benefits. Now, with the biofuel, you do have one other thing, and that is you can refine that fuel, which are these brown tracks, which we don't want to go heavy into it, but I could spend energy based on this track here, which would allow me, and I could upgrade with some tiles, which would allow me to upgrade more or further down the refining process by spending a certain amount of energy. Now, once everybody's done their income, and again, everybody will do the same income except for the biofuel player, which will gain that extra refining step, then you'll take action. So everybody's workers will be here at the bottom of this action selection tree, and the round marker will move up. And as you go, these tiles will flip to give you different actions, so it's not stagnant the whole game. Now, as I move up, I'm going to have to choose. Now, in the first row and the last row, you can activate any of that type. So here, I would be able to activate any one team. If I activate the algae specialists at the beginning of the game, the operators, they can either gain algae to that specific tub, or they can export out on the board, which we will come back to. The engineers will be removing these neutral science tiles, placing them to the side of your board, being able to place later on a future science action. Or you could remove the engineering tiles and place them on the side over here. Like you can see, I do have these conveyor belts upgraded, which could allow for more algae to move, make a few of them move further whenever you're operating that specific machine, or gaining byproducts by activating those blue and green conveyor belts. The scientists will allow you to either gain science or place these science tiles out over here onto your Tetris-like science board. Now, as you remove those neutral tiles and the engineering tiles, you will be able to have more space. And at the end of the game, whatever you have adjacently touching in the largest section will give you a point for each tile. The machine action will allow you to operate. This one will let you do any machine, and I can move from the left to the right generally. There are a couple, depending on player board, that would activate a field, which could be these blue and greens, could activate a byproduct. But generally, the left side is moving to the right side, or if you're to the end, down. Now, I would move based on what the amount it allows me to do. The last thing I could do is I could hire new team members, and they would come over here gaining me the benefit, but I would require the cost 2, 3, or 3 for each person as I hire them. Now, as you move up, you're going to be connected to 1 or 2 different options, and then you're going to take them. So if it says A factory, I have to do the A factory. If it says the engineers, I have to do the engineers, unless I have one of these question mark tokens. This question mark token without a purple background would allow me to change it. So if I spent this on this machine and I wanted to operate factory B or C, I could do that instead of the A by spending that token. Now, I could also, if I had a purple question mark token, that's a wild token, say I went up this way and I really wanted to activate a team, like my operators, I could spin this to, instead of doing the machine action, to operate that team instead. Now, you can always trade your resources and coins and science points 2 to 1 for different tokens, like these market value tokens, which can increase the exporting, which we're about to talk about, or these engineering tokens, which let you remove higher value tiles. But I can always get a wild token with that purple background by spending 3 to 1. So that can really be beneficial if you're stockpiling resources, to trade them out so that you can do a little bit more of what you want to do over here. Now, we didn't say much about the export action. We're coming back to it right now. Now, over here, you're going to see these different milestones. And as I complete them by placing orders out, I'm going to get to place a milestone queue, which will give me immediate points, and it give me a potential to score at the end of the game adjacent regions of milestones based on my energy level. But to export, I've got to have things over here in the C level, these completed products that have made it through the assembly line or production line. And when they get to the end, they're going to have a market value. It could be 0, 1, 2, 3. It's going to be different for each player. And depending on how you upgrade your board, that's going to be a little bit different. Now, I can spend these market value coupons to add to it. And you'll see these different numbers. These are the capital cities, are the darker border here with this 3 or this 5. And the normal cities are the other ones. Now, if I want to deliver here, I first off have to have 6 value, and I could spend these tokens. I could trade resources to spend those tokens as well, but I got to have 6. Now, if I wanted to go here and somebody went here, I'm going to be able to play off of them. I can either go to the same spot somebody else has already exported, or I can pay at the beginning of the game. It will be 1, 2, or 1, 3, or 6 to go 1, 3, or 6 different spaces, or 3 different spaces for 6 coins, but you can't go past 3. It's 3 from somebody's already delivered spot. If you go where they're at, it's free. Now, you can upgrade that science tile by placing it over here, using that science action. Now it's going to cost me 0 to be 1 away or on the same space, 1 to be 2 spaces away, or 3. So it cuts it in half, down and rounded down. So that's very beneficial at times because you want to export out, not only because you may have a contract card like this one that I had that allowed me to gain 1 point for each exported city I went to, but it also helps you to do these milestones, which give you more income, give you immediate points, and allow you to score at the end. The earlier you get those, the higher points you get, the later you get those. And this was actually upside down when we played, or I would have completed it, as you can see. But you really want to try to tackle these because they're going to give you a good chunk of points throughout the game. It can make a big difference. So you're doing all that, and as you do these production lines, you're going to gain this byproduct potentially, which could come from the tank to your production, or it could go from your production if you're doing machine A and you do too many cubes. Well, you've got a byproduct that's coming over here to this tank, and you either have to spend it for energy moving up, or you can place it on here if there's a spot to gain coins. Now, if you upgrade that, you could get both if it's available. This is just letting you know that you can store all the excess general supply of algae here in this tab, whereas it's going to feed into these whenever you reset. At the end of the week, you're going to gain this bonus based on your energy, like we said, and at the end of the game, you'll be able to score those milestone regions based on that, as well as you'll go ahead and flip these tiles, like we said, whichever one's the active row you would flip. Since we were in 4, you can see we flipped the end of week bonus because you're getting the end of month bonus points, as well as adjusting these tanks so that if they're full, you would remove one. If they're uneven by more than 2 or more, you would balance them out a little bit. You'll refill to capacity the harvesting tanks, and then you'll pass the first player marker and get ready for income. At the end of the game, as we said right here, you'll score any cubes that you still have left over, and these do count as a double action. So one time on my turn, if I wanted to take the exact same action, I could flip this, which lowers my income, but it will give me an immediate turn that I could maybe get a very good turn. I have to balance it out, but whatever you didn't flip at the end, you're going to get a point for those. You're going to score these adjacent milestones that you are based on the energy.
Based on where you end the game at.
And then you will score 1 point for every adjacent largest region of science tiles on your board, as well as the contract that you have. Other than that, you'll trade 4-to-1 resources, including your science track, and then whoever has the most points wins. That is how you do Algae Inc. Let's get into what we think about the game.
So some of the things to just keep in mind with this game are that you've got action selection, and with that action selection, as Jeremy told you, this is going to change throughout the game. No 2 rounds are ever going to be the same in this game because each round, one of these are going to flip over. And then not only that, but you're also trying to keep in mind what are your end of the week bonuses that you're going to earn, as well as the end of the game bonuses. And that's going to dictate a little bit, maybe a lot, as far as which paths you go down, because at the end of the game, if I've got a lot of milestones in a certain color region over here, that's going to influence where I'm wanting to go on this path, because I can only get adjacent to 2, and if I have the energy level to give me those 2 bonuses, like right here, for instance, then I'm going to want to end right here as opposed to ending in one of the other 2 spots. So that's a really interesting way to do action selection with that, variability as these tiles flip over, but also with the milestones. So that's one thing to really makes this game unique, in addition to just the crazy asymmetric gameplay that's going on here. And really, what the asymmetry is coming from is on these boards, the conveyor belts.
The conveyor belts and how your product refines or how your product comes together, because the food, you can send all different types of food, and based on the market value adjustments you have your tiles, it's gonna get you, a summative amount or a cumulative amount. But if you leave your food there and you don't have the upgrade there, it's going to degenerate
Yeah.
and then it's going to be spoiled and you can't use
So you
it.
got to be super efficient.
Whereas the bioplastics, you want different types because if you do just one type,
Yeah.
you're spending more resources or algae to get a certain market value. Whereas if you combine the different products, you're going to get more. With the fuel here, you want to find a path that's going to refine it or get it to be more powerful because it starts at zero if you start with red algae. So you're just going across and you've got to spend energy to turn it into more valuable so that you can spend it. Because if you are able to, export in the round, you're going to get one of these bonuses, which is going to upgrade your teams. It'll either make your conveyor belts go from a 3 to a 4. One faction has a different amount of capacity, but you could also upgrade your operators and your scientists because you exported.
Yeah.
And you really want to do that because it makes them much more powerful than what they are originally. Now, in addition to that, as far as asymmetry, you also have to look at the cosmetics. Cosmetics can only send out one type of good. So if I'm doing the toothpaste, I can only send out toothpaste when exporting to a city. So I want to have maybe higher refined toothpaste that doesn't have all of these byproducts in it because it will be more valuable whenever I send it out.
Yeah.
Whereas if I send the cheap stuff, I have to send more of it. So it's a nice balance of each one's trying to find the puzzle of how do I get the most valuable stuff that I can send out, because these milestones are very important and they're not always easy. I mean, this is to have 10 value in one turn. Well, that's quite a bit
with these numbers in
yeah,
one
that's
turn.
that's quite a bit. You're gonna have to go to at least 2 different spots because a 6 is the highest spot. This one, I need to do a 4 and a 3. Well, if I can do a 4, a 3, and another 3, because I have that much set up, which is usually a stacked turn that you've kind of done a lot of, production work. That's gonna let you do both of them in one turn, or maybe you went to these 2 specific cities. And that lets you get 10. So you want to try to find ways to chain. At one point, Lance was like, in our last game, well, you got that too. I wasn't going to tell you, but you got that too. Because it was like I chained like 4 of them in like one turn. And I was only looking at like the 2 biggest ones. I was like, oh yeah, I guess I did do that.
Yeah. But that's the fun thing with this game is that this game is so unique. I mean, there are asymmetric games.
Yeah,
there are tableau building games. There are action selection games. There's networking games, right? And this game combines all of those things, but not only does it have all those mechanics combined, but it does a little twist with each of those mechanics that I don't really know I've seen in other games. And this action selection tree and it flipping over is really unique. The way the boards have these conveyor belts with the networking, and then you're also trying to upgrade and tableau building, right? Like the tableau building plays such a huge impact on the asymmetric puzzliness of each of the boards that just makes it, for somebody who doesn't truly care too much about asymmetric games, this game is awesome. And I'm somebody that doesn't really care for asymmetric games. I like this one. It's just really unique.
There's so much replayability in this.
Yes.
I believe it's like 81 different options between the different tiles, and each one of these are double-sided. Oops, we dropped one. And there's even more that are in the box that aren't even out, as well as these will get switched up every time. These are randomized, and so you can really switch up the game. There's going to be a bunch of different contract cards, which when you place them, it's kind of like Septima. You're going to place one that is a special export you can do for points, specifically you, and you just put the disc there. You can also have one ongoing effect throughout the game, which is going to be different for people and probably different most games. And you have one specialized in-game objective you're trying to do, which you could, or you could really neglect it like I did in one game. I think that one of the most interesting parts is it feels like you're working for a company with all different things. I think of like working in a car business or something. You have the finance department, you have the sales department, you have all these different, you have HR and head. You have these departments, they do their own thing, but they work together, and that's what we're doing here. We're sending out, trying to get these products out, and they do compete. Those different departments in the
Sure.
company want to be the best
Yeah.
department, and that's what you're doing here. So for a game that's not like supposed to be super themey, this has a lot of
It's
theme,
got
I
a lot
think,
of theme.
built into
Yeah.
it, just because you are operating
I
the
mean,
same
that's
company. You're competing to be the best company in the business, the best department in the business, but you have to do your
yeah.
product and do it your way, and to show off to the big wigs
Yeah.
and get that end of month,
I mean, that's another
promotion you
unique
want.
thing about this game is that for it being a crunchy Euro game, it's got really good theming in it, and I enjoy everything about the game. And like Jeremy said, there's so much replayability. I think this is excellent bang for your buck gameplay value with this one because you're no two games are going to be alike with this one. With this thing changing up, with your boards changing up, with
I
the
mean,
milestones changing up.
those numbers were vastly
Yeah,
different. And so when you're trying to get to Berlin and it was a 2 last time in our
right.
starting one, because you can start your first game with just the standard pre-printed tokens on there. Now the small cities are not. You will still randomize them, but even the big cities being pre-printed on there and doing that, it was a major difference trying to get
Yes.
that Berlin at 5 versus a Berlin at 2. And
Yeah.
depending on where people start, like you started at London first that game, at a 1, it made it much more difficult to get
Right.
to these expensive places because I would have had to pay the money until
Yeah.
I upgraded that tile on top. And all that,
Yeah.
it seemed like a lot of the big value ones were together, so it was harder to
And I like this,
export further.
not to keep going on here, but I like that aspect of this board over here, and that the other player's choices kind of
Hmm.
affect what you're able to do. So it's not just like I've got this idea of what I'm going to do in this game, and I'm just going to go for it. You can't do that with this game. You've got to watch what other people are doing,
Hmm.
and the choices they make. They don't dictate what you got to do on your turn, but it heavily influences, and so you've got to play off of this wisely throughout the course of the game. Really
And
nice.
you're racing to those milestones because
Yeah.
if you can
Oh
knock
yeah.
out 4 of them in one turn, that's
That's huge.
a good chunk of
Yeah.
10, 15 points, possibly, depending on which ones you do. It could just be, 6, 7 points, but it could be in the
Yeah.
teens for sure.
But guys, there's a lot to like about this game. Algae Inc. from Game Brewer, they make some really great heavier games, and this is one that I think is going to impress a lot of people with just so many unique things that are going on with this game. But you really ought to check it out. But again, this is coming to crowdfunding, so make sure to check out that link down below in the description of this video. If you like this video, please, please, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon to be notified of all of our great new content. I'm Lance.
And I'm Jeremy, and it looks like I've been splattered with algae.
And we are Hard to Master, where we take a look at games that are
Hard to master.
We'll catch you next time.
See ya.